My name's Christine. I'm 32. I've lived in Austin since 2013. I work for an international student ministry, and in this season currently I'm dating people, and I just feel ready for God to move in this part of my life, and just getting to know people and going on dates.
My name is Lacey. I'm 28. I have a 4-year-old daughter. The season I'm in right now is just the end of a 5-year journey of finding wholeness, and now I'm ready to date and see where God takes that.
My name is Carla. I'm 44 years old. I moved to Austin in 2012 just for a change from Rochester, New York. I am a math teacher. I take care of my dad full time. He has some medical issues, and so that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm also in a relationship with someone that we're talking, trying to get to know each other to see where that goes.
My name is Camille, and I'm from San Antonio, and I am an English teacher and an artist. And right now during this season, I'm really enjoying being able to share with younger women who are going through things that I went through.
My name is Kelly. I'm 39. I moved to Austin, Texas 7 years ago for a job, and I'm really working on being intentional with dating and meeting men, as I realize I've let my career consume a lot of my 30s, and so really focused on that in this season.
Oh, I feel like a lot of people I encounter look at singleness like it's a punishment. And like I've had this conversation a couple of times with people where they view their singleness as like God doesn't love them, and you know that when you get married it's because you were like the Christian of the year, and that's the prize at the end of it. And I just think that's a wrong way to look at it, because there's plenty of single people in the Bible who, you know, were following God, loved God, godly people, and they were single. You know, I don't think it's a punishment to be single. I think it can be a great season of life.
Yeah.
Something else that I think is that people assume that you're single because you want to be single. And so like I've worked really hard in my career because that's what God's put before me, and I've invested myself there. But sometimes when I meet men, they think, oh, you're single because you want to be, and that's really not the case.
I think in the church sometimes people are hanging out or have been told to wait for God's best, which I think is true, but a lot of times for women it's like we're kind of just waiting and waiting and waiting, and we hold back from actually taking active steps of faith to create space in our lives for that. And so that was one thing that I believed, that I was taught when I was in junior high and high school, is just like, you know, pray and wait for God's best. And I have, and I'm not saying that I want to settle for that. That also kept me from really like being open and being willing to like talk to people and go on dates. And so that's one thing that I'm really trying to move out of now in my early 30s, is just like creating space for that. So, and I think that's something the church kind of pushes, is like just pray and wait for God's best, and God's going to provide for you, and He will. But I think as women also we need to like make space for that in our lives. So yeah.
I know with me, since I've been single for 5 years, I've kind of gotten to a place where I'm like content being single. So my issue is, you know, making space, like you said, and making time and putting in effort to actually date. And
I just think that as the church, like I've been in different phases, and I grew up in the church my entire life. So all of my aunts, and they got married at 20, 21, and that was like expected. But then when you didn't get married at 20, 21, and then it was like this thing, well, something must be wrong with you. And so a lot of that, the misconception is too, like you kind of impose a lot of insecurity on yourself just because you thought like, oh, I'm not married at 25, or now I'm 30, I'm still not married. And so then you start to feel like something's wrong with you, or God is mad at you, or you're not doing something right. And I think as a church, I think that everybody has different levels in life, and I think that it needs to be celebrated at every level. The other thing was, you know, when you're single, you need to be in every ministry that the church, like the single people need to volunteer for everything. And I was just like, you know, well, what happened if I don't want to do that? And they were like, well, single people should be doing. And I think what kind of hurts single people in that aspect, if you're always at church, and if you go to a church and everybody married, it's very difficult to meet somebody who's not. So you have to look at it like, well, wait a minute, it has to be a balance. And I think that even though you are single, and you should do volunteer work, I think we should be out there and do things, but I think we should also hone on things that we like. What are our hobbies? What are the things that we care about? Because you actually might meet that person doing one of those other things that is not so church related.
That's right.
piggybacking a little bit on what Christine shared is that I believe that if I ran hard after God and I did what he was calling me to do, that I would just somehow magically look over and I would see my spouse running life at the same pace that I was running. And so with that, I had my head down and my heart focused. Mm-hmm. And so I've spent my life investing in young people and young adults, and then pursuing my master's degree so that I could better advocate for marginalized populations and systems. And in doing that, I've poured my passion into my work, into the people that I serve, and I think that hasn't opened up space for me to get to meet men and actually really invest in that aspect of my life. And so I've really had a lot of reflection and realizing, man, maybe some of those things that I came to believe about how I would meet someone is not true, and that I need to invest in being intentional with dating. Just like I got into grad school, I didn't get in by clicking my heels and hoping I would get there. I got in because I applied, I took the tests, and I applied myself. And so I'm trying to apply like some of the other things that I've done in life that have helped me to achieve or to move forward in the area of dating. And so at the same time, really trusting that ultimately God is sovereign and he's in control, and I trust him and I lean on him for what I need, and working to be content at the same time being in a posture of taking action and not just being passive.
I'll also add to that, I feel like in my 20s, I was doing ministry full time. I was really focused on investing in other people's lives spiritually, and that's just kind of what I did. Like I had friendships and I was open to dating, but it wasn't a priority in my life. And so when I turned 30, it was like something just kind of switched, and I was like, oh, this does matter to me. And it is important, and I do want to get married, and it's not less spiritual. Honestly, I kind of like picked that up over time, that like if you're a missionary, you should just focus on your ministry and like go hard after God. But I was like, no, this does matter to me, and I do want to be in a relationship. And so I asked myself that question for years, like years and years. I was like, is something wrong with me? Is there an area of my life that I still need to heal in? I've gone to counseling, not just for this, but just in overall general emotional health. And so there kind of felt like this expectation of like, oh, once you're healthy enough, then, or whatever, and you're spiritual enough, which is not true. And then finally, I, in my heart, came to a realization that like, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I was like, maybe there isn't anything wrong with me. I was like, maybe I should have given more time and space to this, or like talked about that desire more. And so I will say, her question about what have I learned through that season, I think I have a lot more clarity now, like what really matters to me, what I'm looking for in a life partner, what kind of wife I want to be if I get married, what kind of life I want to live, but then also just how to make it a priority in my life. So, yeah.
I think it's so easy to fall into what you said about feeling like, is there something wrong with me? Am I single because I don't know, I have like a third eye or something like that, But I think during this time, what I've tried to do is learn, who am I? And I think this is an opportunity that not all women get. And I'm starting to realize that that's really a gift, because I have been able to know who I am. I've been able to find out that I love who God made me to be. And it's a situation that I don't think I would have found that if I had been in a relationship. I wouldn't have known what was in me. And I got to find out a lot of those things. And for me, this season has been an exercise in trust. There's so many times when I feel like all I can see ahead of me is my own 2 feet. And that is when I am forced to be like, okay, God, I'm going to trust you even though I have no idea what is ahead of me. Because your word says you're a lamp unto my feet. And so even if I just see my feet lit up beneath me, I'm going to keep walking forward a step at a time. And it's been healthy to be that way, I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's important for like women to take time to realize who you are and whose you are, especially in Christ. That way you are looking for someone who will completely complete you, because when God can complete you, they'll just be like an addition to what you're going to do.
I would say the same thing. I think where I'm seasoned into, I was in a lot of relationships I had no business being in. And I would be in that relationship, break up, and then go back. Because, you don't want to train somebody else. You'd be like, okay, let's try to work on this. together, and let me try to get you right. And and I grew up from women who got married, and I had strong women, but they're like, you train them like a dog. You just keep working with them, and you can change them. And I recognized, I was like, this changing thing doesn't work. And first of all, it's a lot of hard work, and I don't want to do all that.
Yeah.
And so I looked at that in my area of life, that I was dating guys that I shouldn't have been dating. So that's one reason. And then I needed to step away and figure out what was my purpose and what did God have for me to do. And I remember I was so happy that at a young age that I did find out I was born to be a teacher. I always tell people, like, I didn't fall into this. This is what I was called to do. And so then I was really driven too. Like, just, hey, this is what I'm all about. And I'm like, hey, God, you made me this way. I really like it. So I didn't spend a lot of time branching out afterwards, trying to say, hey, maybe I should date. And when I was younger, I used to have all these guy friends, and we were just friends and hang out. Right. And then I was like, the older we get, I said, where are my guy friends? Well, they get married.
Friends
like,
got married.
Right.
No.
And so it would be a lot of times, like, I remember just my guy friends were like, you know what, Carla, that guy trying to talk to you, maybe you should do this. And like, now that I'm older, I really don't have that input like I used to have, because it's like, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Am I too forward? Because now you gotta be a lady, and I'm like, okay, what part of this lady part can I still speak my mind? You know what I mean? Because it's all of that, and it's like, now it's all these classes on how to flirt and how to communicate. Like, it is so many things out for single people. It is ridiculous, and then you're trying to figure out which lane I should be in, but at the same time, honor where God has you. There is somebody for you the way God has you. And I think it's all about timing. I think it's all about expectation, where like you really need to put Hebrews 11:1. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I think putting, like, my perspective is like, I made a vision board, and I just put like, okay, God, this is what I want my husband to be. Right? And then I had a prayer. I found a prayer online about praying for your husband. I was like, I don't want to pray for my husband when he gets here. Let me already get in the avenue of praying for him. Let me already put myself in that habit, because he is coming. He is going to find me. It's just me being in that place and allowing myself to, like you guys said, like, be ready. Who can I make myself the best person that I can be?
Awesome.
And that being in that singleness is being, who am I right now? What are the things I am enjoying right now that I can bring to the table once he shows up?
I like that. That's good.
Okay.
What do you want to tell the single men?
Ask us out. Yeah.
There you go.
I feel like there a lot of Christian men are like, oh, let's guard her heart, and they're so passive, and it's just, be clear. I think that we can take it, like, ask us out. It doesn't mean that we have to get married,
It's
like,
just coffee. It's just lunch.
I think that guys need to be bolder, I don't think that all of the boldness should fall onto the women. I'm fine being a little bit bold sometimes, but it's like, I think guys need to take some initiative, and I've noticed a lot of Christian guys, it's just, they beat around the bush a lot, and
there's like way more passivity in the church. So when you're out, men will come up to you and approach you, no problem.
Yeah.
But in the church environment, Christian men, it's like very passive.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to change.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah.
I can understand in a church environment that it feels kind of like closed circles. That if you ask this girl out and then she says no, that she can tell her friends. But I'm like, I just think communicating clearly, like, hey, I'd really like to get to know you. I'd love to grab coffee with you sometime. And I understand people put pressure that there's this, like, guarding our heart, or that this is going to lead to marriage. But I think just communicating clearly, like, what you want. Also, I would say ghosting is not cool. Like, as a believer, ghosting is not okay. So if you're watching this and you don't know what ghosting is, it's when you're spending time with someone and you're talking, you're communicating, you've gone on some dates, and then the guy just, like, disappears and he drops you. So I understand that there's, like, a little bit of, like, oh, okay, maybe I wasn't interested, and I know that things aren't exclusive until he really makes that clear. But I've had people where, like, we're talking, we're communicating, we're texting, and then just, like, we had a conversation. I was planning to come visit him, and the whole conversation revolved around, like that it wasn't going to work for me to come visit at that time. But there was nothing clear in that conversation that this was the end.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear from him for 2 weeks after that. I was so hurt. I was crying. I'm a big girl. If you're going to reject me, reject me. I'm
Yes.
okay with that. Like, we're okay
For
with
sure.
that. But don't
Yeah.
ghost me, especially Christian men. I'm like,
Yes.
that's so disrespectful. It's okay. Like, we're all big boys and big girls. If
Yeah.
you're gonna end something, end it. But ghosting is so passive and it's so hurtful.
Yeah.
It's not okay, especially for Christian
Oh,
men.
yeah. I'd rather have my feelings hurt
Yeah.
and have a conversation
Yeah.
that
Right.
where you say, okay, I don't want to date right now. I'm not. This is not going anywhere. I would rather have that conversation and get my feelings hurt than just be left wondering.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that is what is just. Oh no. Whew. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. And I would just say too, like in addition to that, it's just like keep your word. You know, if you say, hey, I'll follow up with you at this time, then do that. Hey, I'd like to do this. Okay, then do that. And just don't overcommit or overpromise, but follow up on what you say you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of men need to get mentors from other men, to be honest, and they need help with the dating process as well. I want to say that, and I think a lot of times we don't understand that the family dynamics has changed a lot. Like there are a lot of single families. There are a lot of young men who are being raised just by women, which is not a bad thing. But what it is that when there is time for them to step up to be the man or to make decisions, that's where women are like, we're having that disconnect, because it says he who findeth a wife. I'm not gonna come ask you out because that's not my job to do. And my thing is that the honesty part, yes, just say what you're gonna do. And I know a lot of the men, like if they were with the single mom, they were like the man of the house. So it's a different dynamic when they have to change that and start chasing a woman. And I do believe in that. We need to go back to that. The man is the hunter. And I think you need to hunt and you need to go after what you want. But if you go after something and find out that that's not what you want, to be honest about it. And I think that one thing, like TD Jake said it, he said the 7 things about what you should know by being in a relationship. And the one thing he said is to deepen your relationship with God. And the one thing I got from him from that was he was saying to deepen your relationship with God is really just to be honest with God. Can you allow God in every open door, in every passage of your life? And if men can start to be honest with God, then I think when they start to approach women, then they can be honest in those relationships. And I think as single women, we're finding out that they're not honest with themselves.
Yeah.
So then that portrays on us.
Yeah.
Like they're not honest with themselves. They might say this is what they want, but then once they get it, because I hear men say, well, I want a woman who's independent and I want a woman who's working. And then once you show them that, then they're like, well, wait a minute, you're too independent. Or you too. I'm like, okay, sweetheart, I'm not waiting for you to come take out the garbage. I'm not waiting for you. Like, I have to still live my life until the man of my dreams come along. So I think that they need people to help them navigate through their singleness as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sometimes too, like, because if you're single and the things you're doing, then it creates an independence that you need to survive your life.
Mhm.
And so if you meet a woman who's like maybe coming off with some more dominant traits or things, understand that that's also a product of what she's having to maneuver and navigate. And so like your presence in her life like may affect some of those things. And so to not initially see it and like be like, oh, this isn't for me, but lean into that a little bit and like get to know who that woman really is in her heart and what's brought her to be the person that she is when you're meeting her.
Right.
I'll just add one small thing. I was just thinking about the importance of church community along with being mentored. I find so many men online who put that they're Christian, and when then I ask them like what their church background is, a lot of people, a lot of millennials or people our age, or even in general, are leaning away from the church. And I just
Right.
find so much value in like men who are in the Word consistently, men who are they pray,
Right.
men who have a biblical community and
Right.
mentors. And we really, like as Christian women, we really value their
Right.
faith and their walk with Jesus, and we want to get behind them and follow
Right.
them and be part of, you know, where they want to go. But I just, obviously them pursuing the Lord is so important, but I just feel really saddened by our generation of
Right.
men who are like, church is not a priority to them, and as Christian women, like that's really important
Right.
to us. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I think that I would love for my married friends to, if there's something that I am, you know, if I have a log in my eye, I want to know. I want to know in love, but I want to know if there's something that I am doing that is keeping me single, tell me. You know, like if I need to change some things, I do want to know that. And on the same, like the other side of that is that I think married people need to realize that single people need encouragement because, you know, we're single, and so we want to be encouraged, and we don't always get that, you know, everywhere, and so encourage us too.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's what I would tell married people.
Well, and I think too, just like as a single, like we need married friends. We need to be around family. We need to see family dynamics. We need to see husbands and wives. And I feel as I've gotten older as a single woman, it's like a peer who's my age is like less likely to invite me into her family dynamic because it's like I'm another woman, adult woman, and like I need family and connection. I don't long to be around kids and don't have that opportunity. And I long to have a family and don't have that. And so just opportunities to connect, like not assuming your single friends don't want to be around on a Friday night hanging out with you and your kids. Like I actually, that fills my cup when I get to be around babies and kids and see marriage. Also there's things that sometimes I need help with that I find a way to get it done, but like where a married couple like, oh, we could help you with this, or how could we serve you in this season and come alongside of you is something I would really value if married people like stepped into that space, because I need them, and I don't often think sometimes we realize how much we need each other.
That's good.
I would, just to piggyback off what she was saying, I think that, again, like that mentoring or coaching, like I need to see good, healthy relationships. And I think a lot of times, like a lot of my parents and my aunts and uncles, to be honest, they were married, okay, but they were married under that old school where they were like, we said I do, and I mean, it could have been a bad situation. They were just not getting divorced because they were like, we going to hell. So, you know, they stayed married, and I need to be around good, healthy relationships and godly relationships where it's not, we're just not here together so we won't go to hell. Like we're actually married and we're actually working on this God thing together. And the other thing is too, like with the kids, like I know I'm around teenagers all the time. I don't get a lot of interaction with like little ones or little babies. And those are the things that I need help with. Because I'm like, I can talk to a teenager, but I can't take that same voice to a teenager, to a 2-year-old. Like they're gonna be looking like scared, crying or something like. So I think with all of that being said, I think that we need our married couples to help us along in this singleness. And another thing is matchmake. It gotta be some single people that you know, and you can be having them nice mixers at your house where you have a little dinner and just make sure that that cute one is sitting next to me at the dinner table. So I'm just saying, we need y'all help on that, because I know y'all know some single good looking people. One of the things that God laid on my heart, because I wanted to like be around babies more, like, and I wanted to give more. So since one of the reasons I take care of my dad full time, so that has been a whole change in my life. And I had to stop doing a lot of things that I was doing before, as far as serving the things that made me me. And so the Lord was like, okay, I was like, Lord, I really want to serve. And I kept asking him, how can I do this? And he laid on 2 people on my heart because they had young babies. And I was just like, how can I serve them? So I had text Bree one day and another friend, and I was like, hey, the Lord has laid me on your heart to like give you, I'll come watch your kids for you while you have a date night or do whatever. And I thought that was good because like now I'm like with London, and I remember with the first day I came over, Bree was like, okay, hold her. I held her so wrong. I put her in the pillow wrong, but she was there to assist and things of that nature. But like London and I hang out, and you know what I'm saying, and her other beautiful daughter, Leah, we all hang out, and so it's good, and we'll play Uno, and it just gives me that time to bond with younger kids. And that's another way, to me, I think singles can also serve like married people, but then it gets me to see them, like they go out and they do different things. They go to the movie, they have different couples come over, and they went exercising one day, and I was like, wow, they went and played racquetball or something like that. Cool. And so it gets me to see how they interact, and they don't do the same thing, like how they're enjoying each other as a married couple. So that helps me.
I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but sometimes in the church I've been handed a lot of like spiritual platitudes of just kind of like, you know, wait for God's best, and like he's, you know, singleness is a gift, and just maybe sometimes like a lack of empathy. And so I think through this season of singleness, there's kind of, I'll just be honest, like a chronic grief. Like I have dated, I have waited, like I've been sincere in my purity and my passion for Jesus, and I'm just like, I have waited and I do trust God, but when I'm handed spiritual platitudes sometimes and not empathy or compassion for the grief of like, I've watched most of my friends be married, I've been in their weddings, most of them have 3 children now, and I'm still not married. And some of my married friends have done an amazing job being empathetic, asking me about my dating life, asking me about how I'm feeling, asking me how to pray for me. They're praying for my husband. They're trying to set me up with other people. I feel so loved by them. But so that's my encouragement in the church. I think in America sometimes we're like, oh, it's your personal life and it's your dating life and you'll figure it out. But I'm like, in the church, I feel like Christian singles need more help than anybody because meeting people outside of the church a lot of times is really challenging, especially in the secular world. And for me, otherwise, it's kind of been online. So I do feel like an obligation among the church to set up godly singles, or at least create a space for them to meet and listen to them and hear from them. But I think the biggest word for me is lament. Like, just hear me and be sad with me and believe with me, because we don't know how long. Like, I hope I get married. I don't know if I will, but the people who are walking with me through that season, that's really important. But I don't need another like sermon about what's true. Like, I need someone to stand up and talk about it's okay to be sad. Does that make sense?
Right.
I understand what Paul did. Like, I got it memorized. So, I was like, hot. Okay.
Right.
That's so
And
cool.
I think that's good. Like, I think, like, because I was talking to my mom earlier. I was like, Mom, I'm going to do this thing. And she was like, what? I was like, yes. And we were talking about this word wholeness. Right? I was like, Mom, okay, I need some practical to this wholeness
Yes.
word, right? I was like, I got a career. I mean, I go out and have fun. I have things that I love. I have hobbies. So what's so broken about me?
Right.
But I did recognize that now that I'm in a relationship with someone, that there's triggers that can happen that you didn't even know that existed. Because I was like, look, bruh. You know, like I found out I didn't like that. Like, I remember one day he said, I'm going to call. And he didn't call. And so he did it one time, and I was like, okay, let me just chill. Because I said at the end of the day, I do a lot of reading on how I should.
Yes.
Like, I do read more things on, not too many singles books, but more like how to be a good wife. Because that's what I want to be. I was like, I know how to be single, right? We've been doing it for a long time. But I'm like, exactly, like, you have to teach me how to be single. I've been doing this, like, I got it down, right? Paul chose to be single, and that's not my desire. God has some people that's their desires to be single, and some are that. I know I'm not wired that way. And so I was like, you know what? Ruth was doing what she was supposed to do, picking the potatoes and whatever, and somebody came along. I was like, Rebecca was lapping the water up correctly. So my thing is that with all of those things, if we're in our purpose and that is what's supposed to happen, we all know that we're at the season of where we're supposed to be, then why hasn't that man come along? And I think that what married people can do, and people in general, is that be careful about what you say to single people, so that they're not looking inwardly like God messed them up, or God is not listening to them, or that they're so flawed that they cannot be in a relationship. I think those things that I'm like, I can take it personally sometimes. I'm like, well, wait a minute, Lord. You know, it's like some preachers will say, well, this is why you're single, because, you know, maybe it's something in your life. And I'm like, well, God, what's in my life that I haven't asked you about, or that I haven't spent time with you trying to be? Because I know all of us are trying to be the best person we can be. And I'm never going to be perfect, but I am always striving to be the best I can be with God. And I don't think God is withholding the man of my dreams just because I'm not in that perfect place or in that perfect segment. And I think that people need to just watch what they say, because I think we've all had that conversation, or someone say that to make you kind of draw into your hole, to be like, oh my God, maybe something is wrong with me, or you start to become insecure. And God does not want us to feel insecure, and He doesn't want us to recognize and remember who He made us to be, and that even with our flaws, we're going to have somebody who's going to love our beauty marks anyway.
Well, and that's actually like a false thing in the church, that you're not married because you're not ready to be married, and that's a lie. Like, marriage is refinement, right? And becoming more like Jesus. And so it's like, wherever that came to be, like that's just actually not even true, and that doesn't even reflect God's nature or His character. And so I think that we can identify that, and I know I spent years thinking too, like, it hasn't happened because I wasn't ready, and that's just not true. Well, I recently had some conversations with some brothers in church, and I realized even in myself, where sometimes in church culture we can make it hard for men to approach us. And so having this conversation, I so appreciated it, because I learned, like, oh yeah, I've done some of those things. And so sometimes women can hang out in packs, right? And you're like closed, and your body language is closed. Women can take things really serious. There's been such a message of intentionality around dating that people associate, a date with something much more serious than just coffee or a date. And so really making ourselves approachable. Just because you're smiling and you say hi to a guy doesn't mean you're pursuing or taking initiative. It's like we need to check ourselves and check our behavior and our posture and make sure that we're creating a space that is welcoming for a man who's going to be courageous and approach us. And having a conversation, saying hi, smiling, being friendly is not is good and something we need to work on and practice. Flirting, eye contact, smiling. And I think a lot of times in church we were taught to shut that down, and we need to bring that as women and women of God in our church communities.
Yeah.
You have to go out of your comfort zone at some point. Like you're gonna have to. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's not gonna happen if you don't leave your comfort zone eventually.
Right.
I would just say, like, for me, what God has done with me, I'm all about vision and purpose and creating vision boards and doing those things. And so when I was creating my vision board, you know, I was like, okay, God said, you know, be an expectation if this is what you want. And I think a lot of times we don't set ourselves up as single women to actually be expecting for that man to come along. And I remember it was certain things that I put on my vision board, and I remember he gave me a prayer to say over my husband. He was like, if this is what you want, you need to start doing this now. And the name that's on my vision board is literally the guy's name that I'm talking to right now. But there is some catch-22 here, like, because there's a lot of things that are coming true on my vision board. And the thing about it is now I've been getting a little fearful. So I'm like, wait a minute, these are some big dreams and they're coming true. And so now I'm in this place of seeking God a little bit more, like, okay, God, these things are coming true, but I don't want to be afraid of them. You put these dreams in my heart.
Awesome.
And so how do I get that way? And I think as single women, be intentional about dating. Go on some dates. Don't think that just because a guy is asking you out too that he is marriage material or that's the one that you're going to marry. I think a lot of times women, we put ourselves out there, meaning like, oh, he asked me out, and so then you might ask the wrong questions. You have to do your homework on like another resource is Ashley Empowers. I don't know if you guys heard of her, but she talks all about dating, and she talks about staying away from 7 men you should never date. And you should go and look up those things. I mean, I do have the list. I don't know if you want me to read it, but it's 7 men to stay away from. But it's also this prayer that I got to. So if somebody wants to read that, this is the prayer I say over my husband every day.
Wow.
Even though he's not here. So I'm just saying, as a woman, I think that things that you can do in your singleness is to, yes, put yourself on dating sites. So whatever, this is what I'm going to say, whatever God tells you to do. Because I started doing online dating, and he checked me real quick and was like, you're not being successful here because I didn't tell you that was your path. So I think a lot of times you have to be in tune with God to say, okay, this is what he wants you to do. And so for me, he had me create a vision board. And for me, I have a scripture, Psalms 112, like, this is the man I want. And so he put those things in me, and literally I would talk about my husband every chance I got, like, oh, he's coming around the corner. I feel him, he's real soon. And I think a lot of times you have to put your faith out there, right? He tells us to believe and to really trust God that you want this man. And I also, I didn't want him in the same state with me. I wanted a long distance relationship. The guy is in a different state. Now I am learning. It is some pros and cons with him being in a different state. And I was like, Lord, maybe I didn't think it out, but at the time, that's where I was. And so we're working towards that. But I'm learning a lot of things about myself in that process of, okay, what is it that I want? And I know people talked about the list too. And you hear different people say, some people say make a list. Some people say don't make a list. I think you really need to sit with God and say, God, you know my inner being. You know things about me that I don't even know what they are yet until somebody might push that trigger. But at the same time, since you know these things about me, help me create a list that is perfect for me. Help me create this list that I need from him, but also in this same season, help me be what this man needs as well. Okay, so the 7 things she said that you should never date is 1, an absent father or man. So if this man has children and something like that, you never should date a man who will not be in his children's life. She was like, stay away from that. Number 2, she says, a man who lacks ambition. She was like, a man who doesn't have a vision or doesn't have ambition, what's going to end up happening is you're going to be a frustrated woman. Because you are a visionary. He plants those seeds and you take those seeds and make them bigger. So the thing is, if you don't have any seeds to give, then she's frustrated because she doesn't have anything to make on that. The other thing she said, a man who sits in his ways, in his own ways. He's stubborn. He's not willing to grow. She said you need to stay away from that type of man. She was like, another one, a man you think that you can change. And I have to really change myself from that because I grew up. Every woman, strong woman I know, you can change them, you can change them. You're there to help change them. And I'm like, so I had to really condition my mind to say no. She said the only thing you should change on a man is if he wears diapers. So I thought that was really good. The other thing she said is an unhealthy man, a man that doesn't take care of his temple. You need to stay away from that kind of man because that man is not thinking longevity for his family and thinking of himself. The other thing is she said a cheating man. She was like, a man who chooses to cheat, that is a man who chooses. She said it doesn't mean that he can't change, but that is something you need to watch out for. If he's a cheater, at that time, do you still want to keep dating that person? And the last one, she said, a spiritually lost man, a man that is not capable to be a spiritual leader. And so I just picked up on her like a couple weeks ago, and she had this thing, and I was like, let me read up on it. So I'm always trying to look at the things that I should avoid, but then also the things, what do I need to make myself better? And to be in a preparation and like, Lord, I want to be a great wife. So what are the things I should be doing right now to be in that season of being a wife? I am single and I know how to be single. And not to be that, but be grateful in your singleness. I think that's the good thing too, is to just get up every day and just tell God what you're grateful for. And I think that changes our perspective in the time that we're in right now.
Cool. Good stuff.
I think it's also important not to put marriage like on a pedestal or make it an idol, because you'll always be disappointed in anyone you find, because no one's perfect. So
That's right.
The other thing I was thinking, just in like putting myself out there in my 30s, has been like telling my community to be praying for me, kind of like vocalizing that I have that want and that need, and then also just inviting like wise, respected community into that. Going online for me has just been like an active faith step. I think that's the main thing I want to communicate to Christian women is like, it's not being controlling by creating active space in your life to take a step of faith.
So
like
good.
you can do that in a faith-filled way. So like by faith, I went online. By faith, I emailed my friends.
So good.
By faith, I'm going to these singles events in Austin trying to meet people, and I'm just creating a space to meet people in my life, but I can't control that. I liked what you said about speaking into existence, like he's coming, that it is possible. I think there's like a self-talk, and I've run the same rabbit trail for years. Lies about myself, lies about God, just like why, and it's, you know, it's full of grief and frustration, but even working through some of that emotionally of like what's really going on inside of me, and working through some of that so that I'm in a better space to be like, okay, and I'm like, I don't know who I am anymore. Like I'm just in a completely different space around this, like going on dates with people I never thought I would, and saying no to people that aren't in alignment with what I'm looking for, because I value myself, I value what God has done in my life, and I want to be with someone who's going to be in line with that. So
that's good.
That's really
I just want to say about online dating, I think there is so much confusion for single Christian women about online dating. Like, is it wrong? Is it bad? Does God want us to do this? And this is what I think. I think that if you feel peace about it, like you should do it, and that is a step of faith.
Absolutely.
If you don't feel peace about it, don't do it.
Exactly.
You know, and I think like I think you should be led on that. I don't think it's right in every situation, and I don't think it's wrong in every situation. You know, and so I think you need to be. You know, I've talked to a lot of women who hate online dating. I hate online dating, but I'm like, it's not right for me. You know, but I think there's plenty of women who it's like, like you feel comfortable doing that, you feel peace doing that, like. Step out in faith and do that. So I don't think we need to have so much mystery and confusion surrounding online dating.
And if you're choosing like online dating isn't for me though, as Christine said, like how are you creating space in your life to meet people? So how are you being intentional to interact with men, to pursue hobbies and things that you value, develop yourself, not just sit in your passive lane, doing the same things you've always done and expecting a different outcome.
Exactly.
That's right.
You know,
exactly.
So it's kind of both ends.
Online to me is just another way of meeting people.
Yeah.
And actually it was very like raised a lot of self-awareness or like internal learning about myself in doing that. It was kind of a like self-led leadership thing that I was like, oh, this is what I value, this is who I am, this is what I'm projecting to other people. So.
So I think that's good. I think you just need to whatever God is telling you to do, I think that's the best way to go. And I think that the self-talks are great. Just saying that he's coming and that he's on his way and that the right person for me is showing up, because he's the hunter, and you'll be at the right place. And I speak that over myself too, that I'm at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to make sure that it's okay to be single.
Yeah.
It is okay to go out. And I tell some people sometimes just go. Like, I went to speed dating,
Oh yeah.
right? And I went with a friend.
Yeah.
It was interesting. And I was like, we had some other friends that was like, you want to do it? I'll do it again. Because at the end of the day, you're going out, you're just having fun. And I think it helps some people. Like, one of my friends, she was like, I wouldn't know how to talk to a guy because I haven't been in a relationship so long.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's go to this speed dating and let's go. And it got her out of her comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, you have to put yourself in spaces and places where you can meet people and be open, but also just be in tune with your spirit to be like, okay, God, lead me in the right direction. Make sure that I'm talking, because remember, whatever you're speaking out, your enemy is coming around the corner trying to close someone that might be that person. So you need to just make sure that your relationship with God is the most important, and He's gonna guide us through whatever other relationship that we need.
So I'm here with my girl Kelly, and we are doing a one-on-one session now, rapid fire round. I'm gonna ask her a quick couple questions, and she's gonna give us some quick responses. So the first one is, what is the most interesting or bizarre place that you've ever gone out on a date?
Okay, bizarre would be the Chinese King buffet, an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Ah,
I told the guy I liked a lot of different foods from different cultures, and he thought, great, let's go to an all-you-can-eat buffet. Interesting is that I flew out to Virginia to meet a man that I met online.
Very interesting.
Yep.
Kind of scary, but very interesting as well.
Stepping out.
All right. What's one word that you would use to describe this season of your life?
Intentionality.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
That's good, girl.
Yeah.
All right. If you could fill in the blank, single sisters, what would you say?
I would say single sisters, be open, be out of the box, like challenge yourself, get uncomfortable to grow. And I would say don't have such a strict list of who you're trying to meet that you miss out on great opportunities to meet people that are in your community and that are around you.
So good. Thank you. Woohoo. I am here with my long-term college friend, Camille, and I'm so excited. She drove all the way to Austin to be with us today. Specifically right now, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. So first up is, what's the worst pickup line you've ever gotten?
Is your name Google? Because you have everything I've been searching for.
Oh my God. Swipe left, is it? Is that swipe left? Swipe
I
right?
don't even know.
I don't even know.
But
Okay.
whatever one is no.
Yes. All right. What's the most interesting place you've ever gone out on a date?
Disneyland.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is interesting.
Yeah.
It's an expensive one, but that's
Potentially
interesting.
magical, but not really. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Ah. All right. What's one word to describe this season in your life?
I would have to say fruitful.
Ooh, the irony of it all.
Oh, yes. English teachers, you know.
Okay, and if you could fill in the blank, what would you say? Single sisters.
Don't waste your freedom.
Ooh, that's good. That's powerful. So good. Thank you so much for coming and being here and doing this with me. I love you so much. Blessings. I am here with Miss Christine, and I'm so excited that she agreed to do this. She had such wisdom to share with the single sisters that are actually watching this special. So I'm going to take her through a rapid fire round with some questions. First up, what is the best or worst pickup line that you've ever received?
So I met this guy in a church lobby one time, and he was like, "Are you married?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Why are you not married?" And I was like, "I don't know how to answer that." And he was like, "Well, I'm looking for a wife." And I was just like, I don't really know what's happening right now. But that was super direct. Like, I've never had anyone just come right out and say that before. So he wasn't messing around, but I was like, okay, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And where did that lead? Did y'all go out on a date?
We went on a couple dates. We had some conversations. I actually spoke to the pastors of that church about him, and they advised me not to. But it's a long story. But yeah, that was kind of how it started. I appreciated his boldness, though, on some level. It was just kind of like, wow.
Yeah. It's another story for this rapid fire.
Yes.
Round, huh?
Yes.
All right. So what's one word to describe this season of your life?
Honestly, it's ready. Not just in like the season of dating, but I just feel like I'm in a place in my life where I'm ready to receive what God has for me in lots of areas, including dating. But yeah, ready.
I've never heard that as a response.
Oh, good.
It's a very unique word. All right, and finally, fill in the blank. Single sisters.
Single sisters, I really just think we need to walk by faith and just create space for us to meet other single godly men, whether that's asking like-minded wise people that you know to help you, or to go online, or to go to singles events, and just to be confident and don't be afraid. Yeah, just to walk by faith. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank
you
you
so much for being here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hello, Miss Carla Allen.
Well,
I don't know why I
hello.
feel like I always have to say your first and your last name
It's
together.
okay,
but
girl.
You my girl. I love you. I used to teach with Miss Carla, and we were a part of the same ministry for a while as well. And I'm so glad that you were able to come and pour out some wisdom on the topic of singleness. And so
Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. For this rapid fire round, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Just be rapid, and we go get through this. All right?
Okay.
Be honest too.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And I know that's the only way you know how
I
to be.
know. Keep it 100.
Okay. What is the most interesting place you've ever gone out on a date?
I would say one guy took me to a library, but it was with a waterfall, and it was like all these different colors, so it was really pretty. It was like one of his favorite places to go sit down and reflect.
Wow. So
So
he
I
likes
thought
to
that was
read.
Well, I didn't know if he liked to read, but he liked to reflect. So that's where we went, because the library was usually when he went was at night.
Yeah.
So because that's when the waterfalls came on with the different colors. But I thought it was really nice that it was special to him. That's where he took me.
What's
So.
up? Okay. What are some, like 3 or 4 of your top online dating tips?
Okay, first of all, I would say get a Google number so that when you're communicating, they don't have your real number. Secondly, I would say meet them in an open place. I would say try to do it where there's a lot of people. Park your car just different on a different exit side that he will probably go into, so when you separate that he's not following you, taking your license plate number and all of those things of that case, because that can happen. I would say thirdly, it would be nice to have your girls kind of come to the same place that you're going to, but they're sitting at a different table somewhere else, and just they're just there gathering, but just being watchful. That will be great. And the other thing I would say, do not communicate with the guy if he has not read your profile, and you would know that by the certain questions he asks you, so don't even entertain that.
Wow, that is pure wisdom. I'm not even thinking along those lines. I've been out the dating game for a minute, and y'all need to listen to that, okay? All right, what's one word to describe this season of your life?
Busy.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
B-U-S-Y, busy, okay? Get on her calendar, okay? And then lastly, if you had to fill in the blank, single sisters.
Single sisters, just be grateful in the season that you're in right now, and just live life and have fun. I would say always have fun. Find ways to have fun and laugh as much as you can.
So good. Thank you so much, Mama.
Thank you.
Love you. Hi, my girl, Lacey. Hey, girl, hey. Love her and her heart. Oh my gosh. She's got a beautiful 4-year-old daughter.
Yes.
And so she is out here living the single mama life, and I can relate to that. So I so appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom and your experience and your truth. I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions, and we will get through this. So, first up, what's one word to describe this season of your life?
Building.
Building.
Yes.
Oh, that's deep. Did you? What is one word to describe this season of your life?
Building.
Building. That's good. Okay, another question I want to ask you. You're a single mom, and in this season, you find yourself dating or entering that space again. What's some advice, a couple tips for other single moms out there in that same season of their life?
I would say just don't feel guilty for investing time in yourself and in your future, and it will end up being good for all of you. So
That's really good. That is really good. All right, if you could fill in the blank, single sisters.
single sisters, God knows the desires of your heart. Just be patient and trust in Him.
So good. Thank you so much, dear, for coming. Love you.
Love you.